welcome to the Meet Our Students session for the Masters Open Week. We've got a really enthusiastic panel of students here for you who are going to be able to take some questions. I will let each of them introduce themselves and the course that they're studying at the moment. But I'm Dr Claire McCafferty and I'm the Director of Academic Programmes, and I'm really pleased to be able to host this session for you tonight. So I'll pass to Cam, since he's the first panellist on the list. If you could introduce yourself and the course that you're studying, please.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Claire. My name's Cam. I'm a performance and leadership coach by profession, and I'm currently studying I believe it's the first ever cohort of the Masters of Studies for Coaching.
I believe I was next. Hi, my name is Katie. I work in marketing in my day job, and then in my more fun day job, I'm doing the master's in creative writing.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Vicky and I work as an archaeologist in my day job and I am doing the master's in history.
Hi everyone, my name is Oriane Peter. I work as a data scientist in Zurich and I'm doing the master's in AI ethics and society.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura. I'm a filmmaker and I'm in the writing for performance MST.
Thank you very much. So feel free to add some questions to the Q&A. I'll try to direct them as we go through. But let's just kick off. There's one immediately, and it's for you, Oriane, about application tips. What application tips would you give for someone that's interested in the AI and ethics course?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a recording from yesterday that maybe goes more into details for this specifically, but I think in general, it's just interesting to write about what you would bring to it, what's your background, and also where you would see yourself, like how would you see yourself bring this to your future career and how you would use what you would be learning in the master's.
Excellent, thank you. And has the course then, Oriane, met your expectations?
So it really did for me. I think it's important to go in realizing that it's still quite academic. It's not a very business-oriented course, which I think some people were expecting. But I really went in wanting to talk about philosophy. I really went in wanting to talk about history, etc. And I think for this, it really did meet my expectation.
Thank you. How about the rest of the learners that we've got here? Would anyone like to tell us about the course and how it met your expectations?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. So for history, I wasn't really sure what I was expecting. Having always studied full-time, I wasn't really sure what the commitment would be, and I work full-time, so I wasn't really sure how I would manage studying and working, and it definitely met my expectations. All of the teaching has been excellent, as you can expect from Cambridge, but also very supportive of my job and understanding that I have other commitments outside of the course, so it helps me to balance things out.
Thank you. And I suppose a lot of the learners will be working possibly full-time as well. So can someone give us an idea of how many hours a week you tend to have to study for one of these courses? Maybe Katie?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to chime in. So yeah, I guess I work part-time. I work for a couple different startups back in the States. So I try to dedicate 3 days a week-ish to that. And then otherwise I dedicate my 2 other work days during the week to my master's. But I guess life happens, whatever. So I'd say probably around like 15 hours a week-ish, but I think it also depends on what deadlines I have coming up. And I guess because mine's might be a bit unique, I think Laura can probably understand this too, because I'm doing creative writing. She's doing writing for performance. Writing is kind of something you're doing all the time or none of the time. So it's a bit of a different animal, but I would say I try to dedicate 10-15 hours a week, and then but that's layered on top of part-time work. And I feel lucky that I'm working on a part-time basis because I know a lot of people in my program are balancing it with full-time jobs. and families, kids, other things that I don't have to focus on at the moment. So yeah, I guess that's my balance, and it works pretty well for me so far.
Thank you, Katie. And how does that compare then on coaching, Cam?
So from my side of things, I can't speak for everyone else in the cohort. What I will say is that I run 2 businesses full time and got my wife and a relationship and health and sports and things like that all going on. I'd say definitely the time commitment is something which, and I think it's the mindset with all of these, what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. So at this kind of level, it really depends. Like, you could do what you need to pass, which perhaps when I was an undergraduate would have been sufficient. But ideally, I think for those of us doing this, we're doing it because we're really passionate about the subject in the field. So for me, sneaking away to kind of read a chapter of a book, for example, doesn't feel like work in a weird way. It feels like it's just part of the process. So when there's an assignment due, of course, like towards that time in the build up to it, the workload increases. So I think at the kind of peak of it, I was probably doing about maybe, I'd say, for the week or so, I was doing about 2 hours a day, 2 to 3 hours a day in the build up to that. Other weeks, slightly less so. But again, it's up to me as to how much I want to do it. And at the moment, it's kind of the lull before the next residential. So it's a bit less, but there's more thinking and reading as behind the scenes kind of thing. So it really varies, and you can make it whatever you need based on your life situation.
Excellent. Thank you, Cam. So it seems that there is quite a bit of flexibility and you're able to work it around whatever you've got going on in your life, which is great. So that leads me then to think about, what was it that made you apply to ICE, Institute of Continuing Education, to study? If I could maybe start with Oriane. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. So I was already working as a data scientist, and I wanted to keep kind of a foot in industry. And I also had done already a master previously, so I didn't want to go into a full master again. And for me, it was very important to, especially what I was learning, I think it was important for me to see what was happening in the industry as I was learning it. So, and I think this is something that brought me so much, and I'm very happy that I did it this way, of being able to work, to still be in contact with industry, see what is happening in AI, particularly now in the world, while being able to study all of this is really amazing.
Thank you. And someone did ask if you'd taken any courses or prepared in any specific way when you were thinking about applying, but was it more the fact that you wanted to keep yourself up to date with what's actually happening currently in that specific area?
Yes, so it's less keeping up to date in the sense of I had a very technical background and not more based on humanities. So it was more about learning the skills of humanities. I did not take any course. I just wrote what I felt was right, which I think may be a good advice.
Of course, thank you. And Laura, how about for you? What made you decide to apply to ICE for your course?
Yeah, definitely. So I worked in film production for a long time, doing more logistical, less fun roles, getting up really early, getting coffee for people, and wanted to switch over into more creative roles. So a few years ago, I started directing, and then I wanted to write things I was directing, and I just wanted to learn craft. I didn't feel very confident as a writer. So I started looking into master's programs, and ICE just seemed perfect, and it's been a really great experience, especially working full time, being able to have a program that's flexible and really supportive faculty, and really, really wonderful cohort. And also part of it is price too. Like in the US, if I wanted to do a creative master's, it'd be like $250,000. So definitely, as someone working full time and trying to create their own projects and being able to save money, it's all been really great.
I was on mute, sorry. Excellent. Thank you so much, Laura. So I think that makes me think then about the support, because you mentioned the support there from the academics. So how much tutor support do you receive then as a part-time student studying for a master's at ICE? Maybe if I can ask Vicky.
Yeah, so I would say, so I'm in my second year. So in my first year, we had all of our residentials. So obviously you received support from your tutors in the residentials and also around them. But when you move into your second year, your support is definitely self-directed, I would say. So my supervisor of my dissertation is very responsive to me, and she'll answer any of my questions. But also there is a part that involves you reaching out, which I've done a master's previously and is the same. It's very self-led. You know, again, like that was said, you get out what you put in. So if you ask the questions, you will get the answers. But if you don't use those resources, obviously you won't get the full experience, I think. But in my experience anyway, everyone has been very supportive. And those times that I am able to travel up to Cambridge, supervisors and lecturers are willing to meet with me and chat over coffee about things that I can't always talk about over Zoom. So for me, it's been very supportive.
Thank you. And how's your experience been, Cam, with tutor support?
So the honest answer to that is, because this is the first time we're doing this cohort, we're very much learning on the go. And the way I describe it is that in terms of tutor support within ICE, so as in from the lecturers and these kind of elements, very interactive, use the virtual learning environment, you can be in touch with them. They're so responsive. The feedback I got on my first assignment was incredible, very in-depth. You're learning from experts, and pretty much if I wanted to, I could message the course organizer and have a Zoom call with them next week if I wanted to. So they're really supportive in that way. In terms of college level tutoring, so I know from our side, it's more when you enter your dissertation, they're going to connect you with a tutor to help you support in that area. So we're not there at that stage yet. So I can't answer that question fully. I think it very much is just based around the college you're at. So I know for this course, a lot of people are at Homerton College because of the education faculty, and they're incredibly supportive. I actually chose to go to the college I was an undergraduate at Cambridge at, which don't normally take students for ICE, for kind of like MST courses, but they will be supportive, I'm sure, when I approach them, or at least put me in touch with someone who can. So it all depends on the course you're doing in the different timelines, but in general, they're also committed to our learning, and they really will do everything, go above and beyond to help make your experience as beneficial as possible.
Thank you very much. We have another question in the Q&A. Was there anything about the MST course that surprised you? Who would like to answer that? I can see that everyone's thinking carefully. Vicky?
Yeah,
Thank you.
for me, in terms of history, it was how broad all of the lectures were. So for me, I'm an early modernist through and through. In my undergraduate degree, those were the lectures that I leaned towards, the modules that I chose, whereas the residentials have been so well-rounded. I've learned so much about history that probably I would have thought wasn't my cup of tea, but actually by studying it, I've really enjoyed it. Some history about different places in the world that I've never studied, and it's just made me a better rounded student and researcher, I think. Although I might not continue to study those, I feel like having an awareness of different geographical areas, time periods, it can only be beneficial for my study. And I did not know that's what I was signing up for, so that was a really positive surprise for me.
Thank you, Vicky. Anyone else have any surprises? Katie?
Yeah, I would say I was very, very pleasantly surprised by the quality and the diversity of the speakers that came, especially in my first year when we had all of our residentials. I'm in my second year now doing my dissertation, but in the first year, we had 4 different modules: poetry, fiction, nonfiction, and writing for performance. And across all of those modules, we would have guest speakers and lecturers come in. And I mean, I was hoping for incredibly high quality people, but like was just taken aback module after module. Like hearing from people, like someone who directed The Crown was one of the people we spoke to in our writing for performance module, or like George Saunders, who's like the best short storyist in the US. He spoke to us during our fiction module. Like the quality of people that we have access to was just, yeah, an incredibly pleasant surprise in my first year.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Just thinking about the other types of support, perhaps that are not academic support, what's available for you during your studies? Maybe Oriane, if you would be able to answer that, please.
Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to think. So to be fair, I think a lot of the supports that I get, which is not purely academic, I get it from the other students. And I think we have a very strong feeling of community, even though we're not all sitting together, but I have like pen WhatsApp group just for this matter with different people. The course leads are also very ready to help you if you have any life events. That means that you can't, maybe you have to skip a semester or something like this. So even outside of academics, they will try to help you. I'm sure there's other resources which I just haven't used yet.
So I was muted again. Maybe Katie, since she's unmuted, and then we can move to Vicky. Thank you.
Yeah, so I actually chose to move to Cambridge. So I live here. So I feel like I have access to a ton of resources through the university and my college and everything. And I mean, I'd say, and this is true whether or not you live in Cambridge, there's a lot of mental health services, which I think are everyone should know about, everyone should use. I go in person, but you can go remotely as well. So there's always that resource. And then, I mean, I am part of a rowing team and I'm going to events at the university. So I feel like the resources and the support I have are super vast. And I know a lot of people don't live in Cambridge, but when you do get to come, absolutely take advantage of the town, the resources, the everything. Yeah, so I would say that's definitely a big part of the experience, whether you live here or not.
Thank you. Vicky?
Thank you. I was just going to add on there, sorry, terms of financial support. So I actually applied for a travel bursary from my college, and also the history faculty directly, because some of my archives for my dissertation are very far away from where I live, and I was awarded a few bursaries. So there is financial support there in terms of travel and yeah, in terms of research and things like that. You just sometimes need to look for it yourself. So I think I did a bit of research on the different bursaries that were all available and which ones were applicable to me, and applied, and I got them. So there is that option as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Vicky. And just thinking about then the fact that you're studying online, you did say, Oriane, that you feel like you get a lot of support from your peers. So can someone maybe describe the student community to everyone here and what it's like being supported by your peers, even though it's an online community most of the time? So maybe Laura, if you would be able to answer that.
Yeah, I would love to answer that. So like my cohort, for example, we meet every Tuesday on Zoom just to share our writing, and I'm in my second year, so that we're all working on our dissertation project. So it's been really nice having that support group. I also don't live in the UK, I'm in New York. So that was something I was a little nervous about, like, will I still feel a part of the community not living in Cambridge? And it's definitely still been, I still feel very connected to all of my classmates and professors. And then when I am in Cambridge, I definitely live it up and do all the things I want to do and go to Footlights, Smokers, and go to see lots of theater, and just hang out in the library, do all that fun stuff. So more virtual support. Katie probably has a similar experience because we're sharing a lot of creative work. So we really need a lot of external ideas and perspectives and opinions. So yeah, it's just been really great having that weekly Zoom. And also I've made some really close friendships in the class. So I could always call them up and be like, please read my script for me, or can I get your thoughts ASAP? And this was a previous question, but the tutors have been amazing. My tutor for my first year met with me as many times as I wanted and offered to read work from outside of the course. And my tutor for the dissertation has also been really wonderful and very flexible, because I've had to work on some projects outside of the course. So my timeline's been a little tricky, and she's like, it's okay, Laura, like you can get me things when you can. So they've all been great.
Thank you so much. So is that the same experience for everyone, even though you're not living in maybe or near Cambridge? You find it quite easy to engage with the course and things that are happening while you're in the university? Oriane, yeah?
Yeah, maybe I can also comment on this, as I'm not in the UK either, but I feel like the weeks where we are there in person really helped me to kind of create the connection that then led me to have kind of more one-on-one relationship with people. And I also have made good friends, which now I will also send things to read, or we will call, or we would even see each other outside of the weeks. Now we're trying to find 1 week where everyone is going to meet in Tuscany to write on our also dissertation. So I feel like there's really a lot of opportunities to kind of grow this relationship outside. And I think this is really helped by the fact that you do see the people in person for several weeks.
Excellent, thank you. Someone's asking specifically about the MSc in history and history of art, but perhaps people from other courses might be able to answer this about their course as well for people who are watching. Is there practical aspects, or if not within the actual syllabus, possibilities or opportunities to organise those things for yourselves as students, either hands-on experiences or trips or things like that within your course? Maybe Cam? Sorry.
Sure. I think probably the historian would be better placed to answer this because it was asked about the course. On the coaching side, it's an academic course, right? Coaching is one field where practitioner courses are available all around the world if you really want them. And most of them are practitioner focused, not academic focused, which is something to do with the industry itself, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do a course that was far more academic. And so in this sense, we are very much supported and promoted to go and put these things into practice in our own private practices that we might have as coaches. So, you know, we did our entire first module on psychological approaches to coaching, and we were really, you know, it was very much promoted to us that we should go and now put these into practice. In our assignment, it was recommended that we link elements of the academic, like the critique that we're doing, with cases from our practice as well. So there is an element of wanting to integrate it. And I think for a lot of us we are practitioners, and I think a lot of us in this kind of course, we might be practitioners in that field. There's definitely ways to want to integrate the things that you're learning, perhaps the theoretical concepts, with the kind of practitioner side. But again, it might be on you to do that and to be proactive about it, as opposed to it being pushed by the course, which is, being Cambridge and being an academic program and an MST specifically, is quite heavy on academics and on research.
That's great, thank you. And Vicky, you did mention earlier about some of the historical things you've mentioned. I don't know if that was already part of the programme or if that's something that you organised with your peer students, but if you could maybe talk a little bit more about that, thanks.
Yeah, so that was actually part of the course. So it was lots of varied lectures and sessions and things like that. In terms of practical, history is a bit of a weird one when it comes to practical, because what is practical when it comes to history? I would say there are writing workshops. So there are sort of how to write essays, dissertation, sort of Spitfire sessions, you know, where we talk about how we research and different like how to use the library and different resources available. So I guess that's maybe a little bit more practical in terms of our craft. We have a WhatsApp group, so the Zoom sounds amazing. We do WhatsApp, and we have some members of our group of different ages that don't use WhatsApp, so we do emails as well to some of those members that don't use WhatsApp. So that's sort of the outside of the academic. I don't know if that helps. There's also a paleography class, so for that's online, so you can do that. I'm doing that at the moment, helping to read older writing. So that's something that's been really helping me with specifically with my periods. So I don't know if that really answers that question, but that's what we have.
Thank you, Vicky. How about any other courses? Maybe Oriane, is there any kind of practical things that you organise as students or that's specifically written into the programme?
So I think some students self-organize a lot of things. I know, for example, one woman created a AI Ethics Society student association within Cambridge, for example. So she's doing a lot of this. I think doing practical thing in AI ethics is still difficult. So I'm not sure how to best answer this question. I think it's still, I mean, no one knows. But people are trying to self-organize or organizing each other within each other. A lot of people are professionals, and some are, I mean, all of them are very high caliber professional students. So there's certainly a lot of opportunities to talk with each other, get invited to the talks that some are organizing because they're somehow very high in some industry. So.
Thank you so much. So just thinking about that then, the cohort that you're in, and how diverse are your cohorts? Could someone maybe tell me a little bit about that? Maybe Laura, if you could maybe start. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm a good example to go first because my cohort's pretty diverse. I was just trying to type an answer to someone also who was asking about like what baseline level of experience people have in the course. But I would say like there was like a third of the class where it was kids fresh out of uni. They were 21. I felt so old. So that was like, but then we also had people in their 60s and 70s and were retired or wanted to try something new. So like we had really great age diversity. Most people in our course are from the UK. We had about 4 international students, most of us American, and 1 student from Hong Kong. And then, yeah, like definitely like some diversity with people of color and queer students and getting diversity there as well. And then just to answer that quick question about like experience levels, I would say like some of us, no one was new to writing, like people had written projects before, but again, like we had fresh college students and this was their first higher level academic course. Some students were new to different types of mediums. So for writing for performance, we do film, theater, radio, or now it's not radio because there's podcasts, audio medium. So some people had experience in theater, but not film, or TV and not radio. But I guess like if for level of experience, like everyone had written some things they were proud of, but not everyone had all like the formatting or high level experience in every medium, but that's okay. I think as long as you're writing things that you're excited about and revising them, it'd be a good idea to apply to the course.
Thank you. And Katie, is that the same experience?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty similar for the creative writing masters. Yeah, I would say that we might have a bit more diversity in terms of just where people are from. We have quite a few people from different countries in Europe as well, and yeah, a few other people from the States. And yeah, but otherwise I would say it's kind of a similar experience. Yeah, a lot of different backgrounds. I was pleasantly surprised by like all the different people with different age ranges, very different like professional backgrounds. Some people fresh out of school, which made me feel old as well. But it's just nice that we can all learn something from one another. That always proved true in my first year, and we're still learning from one another. So yeah, I would say similar to Laura's experience.
Excellent. And so we do have a question about assessments, and I guess having such a diverse cohort, and as you say, some people might be really, fresh out of school or university, and people who've maybe been working in industry for quite a long time, and so haven't maybe studied for a long time. How did you find the assessments, or how did your peers find the assessments? Was there lots of support to kind of get people back into what they need to do for assessments? And also, what type of assessments do you do? If I could maybe start with Vicky. Thanks.
Yeah, so we do essays. So it's 3 essays in the first year and then a 20,000 word dissertation in the second year, which sounds terrifying, but I'm filling the words very quickly. I would say, so for me, I was a few years out of education, so it wasn't too hard to get back in the swing of it. I still had those muscles left to flex. I would say some of the cohort did struggle, and I would say there was a lot of helping each other. Our WhatsApp group the messages were coming through. There was a lot of intercourse support. There was something that I would call the Turnitin fear, not really understanding Turnitin, being terrified of plagiarism. We were all of us absolutely terrified of plagiarizing ourselves and other people. So there was a lot of messages through our VLE online. We were messaging the course directors, messaging each other. So it is scary studying, especially, if you've not studied at Cambridge or anything before. I know for me, I was absolutely terrified of the first assignment. But after you do the first one, it's like anything, you just got to go for it. And then it becomes less scary very quickly.
Thank you. And Cam, what was your experience on the coaching course around assessments and the support to help people who've maybe not studied for that level or for a long time before?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm actually the youngest person on my course, I believe, and I'm not that young. So, I'm 30 years old now, and so I'd been out of education for, I think, 8 years. I'd done my undergraduate in engineering, which is very different to writing essays on psychology and coaching. I think there was a lot of, it was actually quite difficult for students to adapt to it. A lot of them have been practitioners for a long time or working for a long time in their careers. And though they've been used to perhaps practitioner-based exams, they weren't perhaps as used to this academic level of rigor. Now, I know that the colleges provide study skills sessions and tutorials to help with these things. And I think the key kind of feedback everyone took from the first assignment was, coaches got to practice what they preach, which is you come in with a growth mindset. You're not going to get the top grade at the start. There was a lot of just passes, but it wasn't seen as a negative thing. It was seen as, okay, amazing. What contributed to that? And the course organizers gave incredible feedback on what that would entail in terms of for them to, if they wanted to improve in the future. I know some people who are looking to resubmit their assignments just because, not because they didn't pass, but because they just want to put it into practice to keep developing and growing. And yeah, I said from my side of things, I think having gone to Cambridge as an undergraduate, the only thing that I found challenging for the adapting to this was just essays, basically, and the fact that I hadn't really done them for a long time. But at the same time, it was kind of, there was an understanding from my side that it was going to be academic in nature. And as long as I did my research on what academic essays entailed, how to critique things properly and fully, you know, there were ways to kind of manage that and mitigate what the self-perceived weakness was. And the idea again is you're doing something in a craft that you love. And my perspective of it was that even if I don't get a good grade, it doesn't matter because I'm still learning a huge amount about my craft just by doing this research in depth into something perhaps I wouldn't have gone into as depth on otherwise. So it's not all about the grades end all and be all. And you'll find opportunities to really learn and progress your skills in academic writing or whatever it is you're looking at over the course of your course.
Excellent, thank you. And I have a question here. This question is around the societies, and it's the AI and Ethics Society. Sorry, no, it's not the societies. It's about the AI Ethics and Society course, sorry, Anne. And someone is asking, how differently do each of the professors think? Are their ideological orientations similar?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and actually something that a lot of us love about this course is we have very different professors coming from very different perspectives, which I think is what's fascinating about this course, because I think AI ethics is so many things at once, and they tend to actually argue against each other in class, which we all love because it's exactly then what you see of kind of what different argument can you make, and it also teaches us how do you build an opinion on this highly interdisciplinary field where there's kind of no right answers and everybody has sometimes almost contrasting ideology on how to go about doing AI. So very different ideology, and this is, I think, one of the things I like the most about the master.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, and it's to encourage that critical thinking, isn't it, that Cam mentioned as well, having completely different perspectives on things, coming from a different background, and having those diverse opinions in a classroom or views in a classroom, whether it's backed by theory or your practice, is what makes the master's course, I guess, so interesting. What about in some of the other courses? Maybe Vicky, are your I mean, history is obviously a little bit different, but do you maybe see your different tutors, do they have different styles on how they deliver, and how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. I would say they have completely different topics. In the residentials, ours have completely different topics. So it's kind of hard to compare because they're talking about completely different things. But yeah, some of them are more interactive, they're more source-based, so they bring sort of texts for us to analyze. Some of them are more conversation-based, so that we discuss a lot more. So it sort of works to different people's strengths because different people obviously learn differently. So it's helpful in that way. And yeah, a lot of them don't have the same views on the same topics. So it's the same. A lot of ours don't spend elongated periods of time in the same room as each other, so we don't have any fierce debate often, but there's definitely some opposing views. But yeah, history, that's just history, I think.
Excellent. Well, I think it's really good actually when you can get a really lively class when people have completely different opinions, and it's friendly disagreement, but you learn the most from that, right? A really good question as well, and it might be a bit difficult for you to answer if you've not completed your course yet, but you might have an idea. because of the work that you've done so far, but someone's asking, what are your views on both the intrinsic and monetary return of investment on your programs? So Vicky's laughing. Who would like to tackle that one? Thank you, Katie.
Sure. Yeah, I guess a couple thoughts. So I went into my program viewing it as kind of a bridge from the career that I have now to the career I want to have. I view it as a stepping stone to become a full-time writer, and I think it's helped me in a few different ways. First of all, just identifying as a writer is kind of a big step to take. It's one thing to be able to say to your family, I'm a writer, and to have it not really be backed up by anything besides, like, I guess, calling it a hobby or something. And I feel like this course has added a lot of I don't know, it's just made that feel very real. So that's more of an intangible thing maybe, but I think one thing that I know for certain will be a huge return on my investment in the course is, I mean, I guess I said that there were incredibly high quality people who came to speak during my first year. But I also, it's very evident that I'm making a lot of connections that I think I'll be able to use once the course is over. I plan on, I mean, my goal would be to write a movie and have someone buy it, and then I never have to work another day, or I could just write then for the rest of my life. And I think the connections I'm making by doing this course through Cambridge is going to point me in the right direction for that to actually be possible. Who knows, maybe that's naive, but I'm willing to believe that it's pointing me in the right direction. So yeah, I think just in the intangible parts of being a writer and actually steering my career in the direction I want it to go, I can tell that it's making a big difference. But I don't know, someone else might have more grounded answers than that.
I can piggyback off of that also. I'm also in a creative course, and I have a lot of friends who say they've noticed a big shift in my output since taking the course on, and they're really proud of me. And they're like, oh, but like you're like really getting into writing and writing a ton. And like what Katie said, just being like, I am a writer, something hard to say to yourself unless you're doing it for real. So the course definitely adds a bit of realness there. For the writing for performance course, they definitely bring a lot of professional people to come speak to us, each residential. So like they brought like producers and agents in lots of different fields, which was a lot of fun. As an American, like the system is very different here than in the UK. Like TV and movies are made in a completely different way. So like I don't know how much the course will help me professionally, just because if I were to be working in London, I think it'd be even more helpful. But it is definitely, I'm still making great connections. And what's even, like, obviously professional connections are very important, but I'm also just really grateful for like the peer connections, like helping people rise up together and helping everyone in the class get better at writing, which is also great. So not sure of the ROI, what that's return of investment, right? Yet, but like the intrinsic value has been awesome.
Thank you so much.
I can comment on the ROI part of it, if that's all right, because coaching, I think, has a bit more of perhaps a translation to the return on investment, because, I mean, again, it's very difficult to directly track it because you don't know what to attribute it to. But from my side of things, I think the niche that I'd market with coaching, some of them would respect the prestige of a Cambridge degree, especially in something like coaching, which has, unfortunately, a massive reputation, some of it as being a bit, done by people who are not qualified in a certain way. It's an unregulated industry, so adding an academic credential is not a negative thing. It's my hypothesis. And my way of looking at it was that actually I wanted to use my dissertation as an opportunity to build lots of connections in the area that I'm interested in, and to see if those connections, I mean, in the future, maybe those connections will actually turn into something quite tangible. But very much so, I was thinking of the ROI as being, I did think of it financially, because it was quite a big financial commitment from my side. It's still a lot less expensive than the States or doing a business-based master's in coaching, so the cost definitely helps in that regard. But I'm financially conscious in that sense, that I'm doing it with the hope that it has an ROI. Direct translation to it may be challenging. I'm still very early into the course, but I have hypotheses for how I'm going to make the most of, try to maximize that ROI, both while I'm doing the course, and I have, the connections in Cambridge, I've got the dissertation, and also afterwards, once I've completed that, how I add that to my list of credentials to, give me a chance to have a chat with someone who perhaps a key stakeholder in a field where I might want to get at. So I hope that helps as well.
Excellent, thank you, Cam. And so you've all spoken about the support that you get from your peers, and you're obviously building up a network with your cohort. Does that go wider? Is there an alumni network? Have you met anyone from the alum from your courses? Has that been possible? Is there any opportunity? I know, Cam, your course is quite new, isn't it? So there isn't any on your one, but any
we will be the alumni.
You will be the originals, the OGs. Oriane, you had your hand up. If you could answer that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, I can comment on this. So I'm actually the second cohort, so I do have alumni, but not a lot. But we did meet them. They came back to talk to us about what they were doing, and this has also been great. So we could see also now they have been for 6 months done with the masters and actually starting to work, and we could see what they were doing, but also just understanding how this could be applied in industry in general. And I think this is very fascinating. And the goal is very much, at least for our masters, to keep this network and maybe even make like a recurring event that everyone can meet and kind of grow this alumni network. And I think this has already been proven useful for some people in the masters and already made contact with also alumni. This is great.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess because obviously they are international courses, and a lot of you've spoken about you keep connected through Zoom and through WhatsApp. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you want to participate in those sort of events, you're able to do that, which is great. So we've only got 3 minutes left. So a lot of questions are around interview and application process. And obviously we do have a recording that people can watch, which was around meeting the colleges, and they did speak about that quite a lot. But just as a general, what tips would you give people for their application process and maybe on the day of the interview? Maybe if I can start with Vicky.
I would just say be yourself, both in the application and in the interview. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I wasn't even sure that I was going to put in my application. I really didn't think I would get in at all. My grades weren't what I thought they maybe needed to be. But I think the tutors saw some potential in me and my research proposal and my enthusiasm for history. And in the interview, I was really nervous. My best advice would be, don't do what I did and have your dog barking in the background the entire time. Please put your dog somewhere away because my dog was very disruptive. But yeah, just be yourself. And if you don't know the answer to their questions, just be really honest, because I think they respect people that are aware of their downfalls and limitations and things that they're aware they need to build on. So there were questions they asked me about my research proposal where I said, honestly, I really don't know, but I will find out. And I have. So I think don't pretend like you are perfect in every single way. Be honest and just be yourself. And if it's for you, then it will be for you.
Thank you, Vicky. And Katie?
Yeah, I would echo that and say, I mean, especially when it comes to writing, being yourself and having something unique to talk about is kind of always best practice. But yeah, I think, I mean, I had been working in like the corporate world, very tech startup, whatever. It didn't seem immediately transferable, at least to me. So I feel like instead of focusing on, at least for me, maybe like what I had come from most recently, being a bit more forward focused and really understanding like why you want to do the course, like why you're very passionate about it and why it's a good choice for you going forward. Because I think it's pretty evident from everyone who's spoken tonight that these master's courses aren't really like a checkbox sort of thing. It's more of this is something you're very passionate about. And I think if you can explain why you're passionate about it and how your unique perspective will be additive to the program and to academia or to whatever field you're entering in general, I think that is what shines through more than anything.
Thank you very much. And do either Cam, Laura, or Ariane want to add just one more comment around any tips for the interview?
Can I add a small one on this one?
Of course.
I actually create resources for undergraduates applying to Oxbridge on the interviews itself.
Okay.
So yeah, so in terms of
is this a plug?
No, not at all. Not at all. I can summarize just really, it's literally in general, these interviews, like like everyone said, it's be yourself. And it's almost like
Yeah.
what inhibits us from being ourselves is nerves of the occasion, who we're speaking to, the gravitas that they carry, and our perception of them. And the key three things they're looking for is enthusiasm. Are you curious about this and passionate to learn? Your approach. So how do you actually approach the question they've asked you? What structure do you have in terms of the way that you're phrasing your thoughts and the way that you're articulating your interest in that? And then your teachability. Would they enjoy teaching you in these interactions? Would they enjoy interacting with you during these residentials? And so hopefully it's all very common sense, but it's just to assure anyone that it's not a crazy technical process. It really is about just how can you get out of your own way to just be fully authentic in that interview context, and then trusting in a way that their judgment, they've seen a lot of students come and go. They have a good idea of if you're the right fit or not. And you can always kind of trust that what misses you is never meant for you, and that what's meant for you will never miss you.
What fantastic advice to end on, Cam. Thank you for that. And thank you so much to all of our students who've joined us tonight, and everyone who has joined that's looking to find out more about the master's programmes, and also for the people who'll be watching this recording a later time. We hope that you do consider the Institute of Continuing Education for your postgraduate studies. And yes, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.